One of the first things that this book says, as a quote, is it says, "That which is measured improves." So if you said to me, Ryan, I want to eat 2,500 calories per day, good tactic, very measurable. How are you going to measure it though? Do you have an app? Do you know how many calories are in what? Do you have a scale that you can measure your protein with, or measure out the rice or the vegetables that you're going to have? I mean, we need to get down to the nitty gritty and start measuring this stuff, because it's very easy to deceive ourselves into saying, yeah, I'm doing it. Gentlemen, welcome to the Order of Man podcast. I am Ryan Michler. I'm your host and the founder of this movement to reclaim and restore masculinity. This is our Ask Me Anything episode. I run these each and every week on Wednesdays. Usually I have my good friend and fellow co-host, Mr. Kip Sorensen, on the podcast. He sent me a message a little bit ago, said he's not feeling well. He's under the weather. It's probably a man cold. If I had to guess right now, he's probably eating some chicken noodle soup and having some saltines and maybe watching The Price is Right for the rest of the day. I don't know. That's what I did when I was a kid. I don't know if the kids are still doing that these days, but he's down and out. So you're going to hear from me for better or worse today. And specifically on today's podcast, we're going to talk about systems, structures, organization, efficiency, daily planning, etc., because this is so crucial. So many men leave so much on the table because they lack the systems and they're inefficient, they're ineffective. And even when they are busy, it seems like they're just pumping their pedals, but they're not really getting anywhere. And I want you to get somewhere. I want to know, for me personally, that if I'm going to put forth effort, that it's actually going to produce and yield results in my life. I imagine you do as well. So I'm going to jump right into questions today. I am running a little bit short on time. Speaking of efficiencies and productivity, obviously with it being Labor Day weekend, I got thrown off a little bit because I took the day off, a rare day off I took. And so I'm catching up today. And by the way, thank you to all of you who are serving your communities. You're working hard. You're serving your families. You're building this country. You're building your city. You're doing the work of men. I want to thank you. We are standing on the shoulders of those men who came before us, who put forth the blood and the sweat and the tears to make this the most prosperous country that has ever existed in humankind. And sure, we've got a lot more work to do, but it's those of you who are out there doing the work, putting in the work, day in and day out, sacrificing so that you can provide for your families and build up your communities. I want to honor you on that. All right, guys, let's jump into this. Again, we're talking about efficiencies for planning. The first one comes from a member of the Iron Council. I just talked with Aaron just the other day, and him and I are supposed to have a call later this week, in fact. But Aaron Polito, he says, how and when is it appropriate to build in flexibility, or how best to balance structure and flexibility for those with dynamic work situations that force reactivity during working hours? Best practices on how to protect time or how to effectively schedule deep and focused work. Best practices for instilling daily checkpoints to identify when the day is off track. And those three would be the most helpful specifically. Well, here's what I do, Aaron, first and foremost. And I do this, and I don't have the same sort of reactivity that you may have in your work schedule based on what you're saying right here. I plan out my day to the T, using our 12-week battle planner. If you go to the store.orderofman.com, you can pick these up, and you can just pick up the inserts, which are really inexpensive, unless you wanted the leather binder like I have there. So I plan out my day, but the best thing that I've ever been able to do regarding my planning is to build in buffers. And a lot of the times people think when you build in a buffer for appointments that it's going to make you less effective, and I've found the exact opposite to be true. So, for example, if I have an hour-long meeting, I always schedule a 90-minute block. So if my meeting starts at noon, in my calendar, I put on there that I will be done with that particular meeting at 1:30. That way, if something goes over a little bit, it's fine. It's no problem. I've got the buffer. If it goes to the exact right time, to noon, for example, that's good too, because now I have a half an hour to catch up on any emails, put out any little fires, make a phone call, reprioritize this calendar, this schedule based on whatever might come up. So that 30-minute block, people think, well, you lose that time. No, you don't. In fact, the shorter the time, you're able to actually cram and fit a lot in there because you know you're pressed for time. That's a principle. I can't remember what it is right offhand, but work expands to the time allotted. But if that's true, then I think it's safe to assume that work contracts to the time allotted as well. So we can get a lot done in a short amount of period of time if we are crunched for time. And we know that, for example, in my previous scenario, I've got a meeting at 1:30. That means I've got a half an hour to bust it and get a bunch of work done. So I build buffers into every meeting. Deep and focused work, I think, comes with, number one, creating an environment where you have that undivided attention. If your doors are always open, or you share an office with somebody else, or you have your phone by you and your emails pulled up when you're trying to do deep work, it's going to be less likely that you're going to be deep and focused on what needs to be done. You're going to be distracted by other conversations. For whatever reason, people think if I'm on the computer in a public place or with friends or family and I'm on the computer and I'm typing away, people just naturally assume that they can come talk to me because there I am in their proximity. But if I'm in my office, it's organized, it's structured, it's free of clutter, it's free of chaos, the door is closed, then it's going to be less likely that people come in and I was going to say bother me, but that's not really it. Just distract me while I'm trying to do deep and focused work. But I would also set those conversations. You know, as a man who works at home, when my kids were here at the house all day, I told them, if my door is open, you're welcome to come in. If my door is closed, you can knock lightly. If I answer and say, come in, you're welcome to come in. If I don't answer, don't keep knocking and don't start yelling. It means I'm doing something. Maybe I'm in the middle of a call. I might be on a podcast. I might just be doing deep and focused work like you're talking about. But the more that you can set that up with individuals, and then once you set it up, uphold the boundaries, because they are going to try to cross them. If you say, hey, from noon to 2, I'm unavailable because I'm doing X, Y, and Z, somebody's going to come in at 12:05 and say, hey, Aaron, I could really use your help on this thing. You actually have to be able to uphold the boundaries so people get it. It's going to take some time. And so you might say to that individual, hey, Joe, I appreciate that you have this issue. I told you I'm unavailable between noon and 2, which means I can't address that right now. So if it's not an emergency, go talk with so-and-so or sit on it for a couple hours or maybe move to this. But the more that you can uphold that boundary, the more people start to realize that you're serious about it. Because if you're not willing to protect your time, I guarantee other people will not protect it as well. And then the best practices for daily checkpoints is, again, the buffer. If you have that buffer, then you can go in. When I was doing financial planning, I would do the same thing, 90-minute meetings for an hour-long meeting. And what I would do at the end of that meeting is I would just take some notes based on the client meeting, write down what we talked about, what we discussed, what recommendations I made, what they implemented. Not only was I legally bound to do that because I was a fiduciary for my clients, it was just a good practice. And you can do that if you have a buffer. You can go through and say, okay, was that meeting productive? Or was that project what I needed to get done? Or what do I need to tweak and change in the rest of my daily plan to ensure that I'm productive moving forward? So that's how I do it, and I hope that gives you some help. Similar vein on this next question, this one comes from Chris Chivers. He says, there are many men who work some variation of a beyond Monday to Friday 8 to 5 type job. For example, alternating shift work, multi-day short-term shifts, longer weekday shifts, extended shifts, et cetera, et cetera. With the ever-changing daily, weekly routines and structures, what systems or suggestions do you have to help ensure consistency executing multiple daily and non-negotiable tactics? Additionally, find time to focus and tackle larger, more goal-oriented tasks. So very rarely is somebody completely unaware of how their day is going to go in advance. Now, I realize depending on your work, you might have emergencies come up or you might get called out very quickly, and I get that. But that, for the most part, is going to be the exception, not the rule. So even with alternating shift work, there's still a schedule with that. Even with multi-day short-term shifts, still a schedule. Longer weekly shifts, still a schedule. And so you might be an individual who has different types of days, not different days, different types of days. So one day you might be in from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., let's just say hypothetically. And that's every Monday. And then and then you have Tuesday off. And then every Wednesday you take a noon to 7 shift, and then you have Thursday off, and then Friday you have maybe it's a graveyard or a midnight shift, and so you've got from 9 p.m. until 5 a.m. the next morning, okay? But you know that those are 3 different types of days, and I would categorize them like that. So maybe it's an A day is your day, a B day is an afternoon schedule, and a C day is your evening or your graveyard shift, whatever it might be. Now that you've classified and categorized your day, you can say on A days, I work out at when I get done with work at 4 o'clock, whatever I said. On B days, I work out before work at 11 o'clock. And on C days, I work out when I get home, which is at 5 a.m. And you can toy around with it to figure out what's going to work best for you. But if you can create a schedule for those different types of days, I think you're going to have a lot more success. Because a lot of guys will say, well, I can't go work out at 6 a.m. every morning because sometimes I'm working. Yeah, I know. But maybe your schedule is that you're going to get up 2 hours before you work, whenever that is, and that'll help you get into the gym, do your workouts, and then get on with your day. Or maybe it's on a lunch break, on a B day, that's when you do your workout. And so I'm gonna pack my lunch, or I'm gonna prepare my meal ahead of time so that I can go eat it real quick, do my workout for a half hour, and just get after it. Or maybe on those graveyards, it's really difficult for you because you have to get up late. Maybe you've been up all day and you don't want to do it after work because you're going to be beat and ready for bed. Okay, so maybe you do on a C day a very short workout, and it's not going to the gym. It's just doing some body weight movement at the house. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. I think that's the problem a lot of men have, is they believe that their day needs to be planned to the T, and they need to do whatever it is they're going to do to the nth degree every single day. And look, if that doesn't work, it doesn't work. So create a schedule. Even though it might not be 100%, you can create a 90% schedule. And I'm talking about 90% efficacy. It would be better for you to go to the gym 3, 4, 5 days a week and lift heavy weights, but that might not work for your schedule. So maybe you do 3 heavy lifting days, and the other couple of days you do body weight workouts, and that's just what you have to do because that is your schedule. So figure out what your non-negotiables are, categorize your days, A, B, and C days, or however you want to do it, and then start plugging the non-negotiables in there. If reading and journaling is a non-negotiable, but you happen to get sidetracked or your day gets away from you, plug it in somewhere. It's a non-negotiable. Maybe you do have a buffer. We talked about that. You've got a 30-minute buffer between meetings, so there's 30 minutes you can read. Maybe instead you get a 45-minute lunch, maybe you eat for 15 minutes. I mean, how long does it take for you to eat if your meal is already prepared? If you have to go somewhere, get it, drive somewhere, yeah, it's going to take longer. But if your meal's already there, you have it in the fridge at the office, you throw it in the microwave for a couple of minutes, you eat it, it's going to take you 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops to eat your food, and now you've got 35 minutes to do a workout. Maybe that's even in your office, at your cubicle or in your office, and you're doing push-ups and air squats and sit-ups or jumping jacks. Or maybe use that time to read or to journal or to plan the rest of your day. But I think the buffers will also help with the variation of the schedule. But again, categorize your days, figure out what non-negotiables are, and put those in order for your A, B, and C days, and have some flexibility because things will change. This one comes from Noah McLaughlin. He's from Battle Team Galt. He says, what tactics do you think we can utilize in our daily planning for tasks and goals to ensure continual growth, progress, and make sure we don't step back into old tendencies, habits that did not serve us well? Well, part of the beauty of the battle plan, again, that's this tool, if you're following along on YouTube. And by the way, we've got like 350,000 people. Maybe it's a little bit more now. I'd have to look, but about 350,000 people over on YouTube. So if you're not over at youtube.com/orderofman, but I'm holding up the battle planner right now. The beauty of this is that it's not just about execution, because anybody can be busy. Every man can get busy. Go ask 100 guys today, hey, how you been? And 99 of them will say, oh man, I'm doing really good. I've been really busy. Like, have you ever met somebody who's not busy? We're all busy. It's not a matter of busyness. It's a matter of effectiveness. So the beauty of this battle planner is that we have tools inside of this to make sure that you're effective. And the first tool is what we call an after action review. And an after action review is analyzing your day. And I do this at the end of every day. I look at what I got done. I look at what I did not get done and roll it over to tomorrow. I look at what I did well. Maybe I made all the phone calls. Maybe I was positive and really effective and efficient. Maybe I had high energy today. And then I look at the things that I did not do so well. Maybe I did get distracted with somebody else's problem and it detracted me from accomplishing more. Maybe I took a few phone calls and something went wrong and I handled it incorrectly. And then the fifth question I ask is, what am I going to do tomorrow to ensure that it's a productive day? So I map out my next day the day before. So that's the first one, after action review. That's always, always going to help you. Number two is we look at checkpoints. So if my goal, we'll make it easy. If my goal is to lose 30 pounds this quarter, then the 30-day checkpoint should be I'm down 10 pounds. The 60-day checkpoint should be that I'm down 20 pounds. And then that way in 90 days, if I stay on the same trajectory, then I'll be down my goal weight and I'll be down 30 pounds. So the checkpoints are huge. Now, you don't have to wait until 30, 60, and 90 days to do those checkpoints. We just had a guy in the Iron Council who he goes by Frosty, and he was talking about his weight loss journey. And I can't remember the totals, but he's like 5 pounds or something away from his goal weight. And he's been losing weight rapidly with the eating, with the nutrition, with the working out. He's been losing weight rapidly. And so he's had to adjust his battle plan to make it harder because he's doing so well. So now he's implementing new things, new tactics into his daily planning that's going to help him far surpass what he originally thought he'd be able to do. So that's why the checkpoints are so powerful, because they allow you to see where you are. Now, you might find that you're far behind. And if you're far behind, you have to critically ask yourself during the after action review, am I really doing what I said I would do? Right? Because if you say, hey, I'm gonna live on a 2,500 calorie diet each day, and that's my tactic. Okay, but you're not losing any weight, so where's the discrepancy? Outside of very, very rare medical conditions, if you reduce your caloric intake, you're going to lose weight. It's just going to happen if you have a calorie deficit. So what's probably happening is not that you have some rare medical condition where you can't lose weight, but what's probably happening is that you're actually not consuming 2,500 calories. You're consuming 3,700 calories. And you're letting little snacks and little too much portions in your meals add up, and you're not tracking it or acknowledging that you're not actually sticking to it. It feels like you are, but you're not. One of the first things that this book says as a quote is it says, that which is measured improves. So if you said to me, Ryan, I want to eat 2,500 calories per day for the next 90 days, that's let's say it's a 500 calorie deficit each day. Good tactic, very measurable. How are you going to measure it though? Do you have an app? Do you know how many calories are in what? Do you have a scale that you can measure your protein with, or measure out the rice or the vegetables that you're going to have? I mean, we need to get down to the nitty gritty and start measuring this stuff, because it's very easy to deceive ourselves into saying, yeah, I'm doing it. Why? Because you didn't have the Diet Coke you normally have this morning. There's no calories in that. So you're not actually losing any calories if you just stop drinking Diet Coke. Now, would it be better? Probably for your health. I would argue that it could be better for your health, but it's not really what you're after. So you have to get crystal clear, and you have to be able to measure it. And so those are some tactics that are built in. All right, this one comes from Andy Smiley. That's his nickname in the Iron Council. Collins, he says, I'm going to open this up a little bit. He says, how do you handle in your normal weekly structure the unexpected? I found having routine before mornings or before end to be beneficial, but sometimes an unexpected event or occasion occurs. How do you make up for whatever it is you had to put aside for such an occasion? I feel like I answered this particular question a couple times already. Again, just to recap, building in buffers is huge. After action reviews are huge. Not stacking your day to the brim is going to be beneficial. Some days are just like that, but you don't have to have every day like that. making sure that you recap at the end of the day, that fifth question, what am I going to do tomorrow to make sure it's effective? That's where you would put into the next day, hey, I had this emergency come up, so I have to evaluate, I have to adjust, and I have to reprioritize tomorrow. And then you can do that at the end of the day so you can get back on top of it. I would also suggest to you that what we often say are emergencies aren't really emergencies. Just because somebody else has a problem, it doesn't have to become your priority. Just because somebody else isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing doesn't mean you need to jump in all the time and save them. There might be moments and reasons why you should do that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to in every single case. So be aware of that. Build the boundaries. Don't let people step over those boundaries. And also, depending on what line of work you're in, if you're in law enforcement, for example, you know you're going to get called in on a case. You know that you're going to have to go do work. You know you're going to get a call, or the fire department, or a paramedic. And those are emergencies, right? But you know they're there. And the better off that you can anticipate what type of emergencies might come up in your line of work, the more capable you are of dealing with it. And I would also say to you that if your job is one where emergencies and unexpected things come up, then you need to be hyper efficient with the way that you're doing your work when it's not an emergency. Because if you're allotted, for example, if you've allotted yourself an hour of time blocking to check emails, get it done in a half an hour. Because if you get it done in a half an hour, then you just recaptured 30 minutes of your time. And that 30 minutes doesn't mean now all of a sudden you can start scrolling on your phone and go take a 30-minute bathroom break. It means that whatever was supposed to be doing, you're supposed to be doing next, now rolls into that 30-minute slot so that you're hyper efficient. And I would suggest that we try to get away from, as best you can, I realize if you're an employee, this is difficult, get away from the whole time constraint thing. Like, my day is done when I've put in 8 hours. Instead, I would say my day is done when the work is done. So if it takes me 6 hours to do what takes other guys 8 hours to do, then I'm that much more efficient than those individuals. And I can still put in the 8 hour day, but now I'm going to start taking other tasks and put them on top of what I've already done. So be hyper efficient. I feel the same way about money, by the way, guys. Like, I can't tell you how often a man will reach out to me and he'll say, the transmission on the car went out, or one of the kids broke their leg at school and we had to pay this deductible. Or we had a tree fall on the garage and now we need to replace the garage, or now we're left without a car and we need to get a rental. There's financial expenses that come up. Or another one I often hear is that they hate their work and their employer asks them to do something that goes against their morals. If you haven't handled your financial situation, then that's going to be a really difficult day for you. But if all the while you've been paying off debt, you've been budgeting, you've been prudent with your financial decisions, you've been stashing money aside, you've been investing, you've been learning about how to handle your money, when you have to hit a $5,000 deductible on your vehicle because something happened, it's going to be a bad day, but it's not going to wreck you financially because you've been preparing for it the entire time. So the best thing that you can do to ensure that when emergencies, whether they're natural disasters or financial emergencies or medical emergencies come up, is to make sure you're doing the work you need to be doing now, today, so that when they come up, and they will come up, you're not going to be completely side-railed by whatever happens to be going down. So do your work right. Be efficient now, and you won't have to worry about it later. Dennis Abrams, he's our executive officer over on Team Navarra. He says, what's the best way to become an early riser? The snooze button is my go-to in the mornings. Well, I think number one, it's a decision. And that's really easy to say. You just make a decision. It is that, but let me give you some other tactics here. So number one, go to bed earlier. And you might have to force yourself to go to bed earlier initially because you're not an early riser, so you might not be as tired at the end of the day. But go to bed earlier. You're going to have to do it for a week or so before your brain and your body start to recognize that when you get in that bed, it's time for bed. The other thing I would say is that the bed is only for two things: sleep and sex, nothing else. You don't need to be playing video games in your bed. I don't really try to watch TV. I have a TV in my room. Very rarely do I watch it before I go to bed. In fact, I'll probably just take it out of my room because I don't want to watch it at all. I don't want to condition my body to think that when I get in that bed, it's something other than sleep or sex. That's all it is. So I want to condition my body to believe that when I get in bed, it's time for bed or time to get down. And that's it. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, think about your quality of sleep. Everybody talks about quantity, but very few people talk about quality of sleep. I've gone through in my room and I've taped up all the little LED blue lights and all the flashing little trinkets and lights and everything else. I do have some podcast equipment that sometimes I forget to unplug, but I try to unplug it because I don't want those lights blaring in me. I've got blackout curtains. I've set the temperature where it needs to be set based on how I sleep best. My bed is comfortable based on how I sleep and the way that I sleep. So I'm really aware of that. And that seems to help me sleep better, which means that I actually wake up rejuvenated and ready to go. The last thing that I'll tell you, Dennis, is outside of what I've already shared, is make sure you have a plan for the morning. If you haven't thought about the night before, what you're going to do the next morning, you're going to be way more likely to hit that snooze button because you're going to wake up when that alarm goes off and you're going to say to yourself, oh man, I wanted to go to the gym, but I got to get my workout clothes. I got to get my pre-workout ready. I've got to drive to the gym. I don't really know what workout I'm going to do when I get there. You know what? I'll do it today or tonight, or I'll start tomorrow. And that's what people do because they have no routine. They have no drive. They have no ambition, and they have no way of knowing what it is they're waking up for. Why would you wake up if you have nothing to wake up for that excites you and makes you ecstatic about getting after the day? So for me, I like to get up. I like to get moving. I might have a very light breakfast, very light. Sometimes I'll have some hard-boiled eggs or a couple fried eggs, try to get some water in me, try to get my workout in. And then even before I get to working, I plan out my day. Plan out my day. I do a little bit of reading. Sometimes I'll listen to something instead of read if I'm crunched for time. And just a little reflection on what the day is going to look like. But that excites me. That actually gets me going. And I have a plan for the day. So I know I need to start getting after it because if I don't, I won't be able to get my plan done. So this battle planner is huge. Hopefully, Dennis, that helps a little bit. And then consistency over time. And that should be able to lock it in for you. This one comes from Zach Halsinger. He's on Battle Team Mars. He says, how do you make daily planning become a ritual? I've tried to set reminders on my phone, but it seems to have the opposite effect. Well, I like your use of the term ritual. Most people would say, how do you make it a habit or a practice? And that's fine too. But I like that you use the word ritual because when you think of what a ritual in the traditional sense of the word is, it's a ceremony. It's a process. There's some level of honor in what you're doing. It's deliberate. It's intentional. It's meaningful. And you're actually diving deeper into making sure that it's an experience rather than just a habit. I like to do it that way. And so to go back to what I was saying earlier is if you want it to become quote unquote ritualized, Zach, like you're talking about, the best thing that you can do is a couple of things. Have an environment. Number one, have an environment. Don't just do your daily planning at the kitchen table or in the living room sometimes, or if your kids are bouncing off the walls and they're getting up and they want cereal and they want to watch cartoons and you're trying to do your daily planning inside of the living room, that's not going to work. Instead, find a good place. Maybe it's a home office. Maybe it's in the garage. Maybe it's in your own bedroom and your wife knows that this is your daily planning. Maybe you do it before the kids get up and you do it at the kitchen table. Or maybe you have a desk in a common living area where you can do it and you've got your computer pulled up in front of you. But wherever it is, make sure the environment is conducive to focus. Also, make sure it's an environment that you like. If it's an environment where you have a chair and it's uncomfortable and it's awkward and it's stuffy and you don't like being in there, or the room's too hot, or it's too dark or too light, whatever, make it an environment that's actually somewhere you like going and like being. If it's something you enjoy, then you're going to do it. And that's why I would say, find a good chair. If a chair is important to you, find a good chair. and use that chair and reserve that chair for you, by the way, and for your planning. Don't let your wife take it and use it as an extra chair at the kitchen table when visitors come over. And I know that sounds weird, but we're talking about ritualized practices here. That chair is for that purpose. And then you can go buy her an extra chair that actually matches your kitchen set when guests come over. Don't let your kid take your office chair and go roll it around and do races in the living room. Although that sounds fun, and I would probably get down with that too. That chair is yours. Make it part of your practice and make it important and significant and mean something. I would also say making sure that you have things set up the day before, like we've talked about, so that you can be efficient in the morning. And I think just being efficient and not having this droned on, long, monotonous, boring process will make it more likely that you'll do it. I would say enlist the help of other people, and that might be explaining to your wife that at 6 a.m. to 6:30 is my daily planning, and I don't want to be interrupted that time, so I can get up before and I can put coffee on the pot or what. I don't drink coffee, so I don't I don't know, but I could put coffee on or whatever, turn it on, whatever you do with coffee, pour it. I don't know, or after you can help with the kids, you can help them get ready for school, but from 6 to 6:30 is your time to do your planning. The more committed you are to it, the more reverence, that's a good word, the more reverence that it has, the more it becomes a ritual and it becomes something you enjoy rather than a chore. And then the last thing would be to do that after action review at the end of the day, because that's going to help you tie your daily planning to results. So if at the end of the day, you're like, what did I do well? And you're like, you know what? You know what I did different today? I actually planned out my day. I mapped it out. I knew what I was going to do. I had it organized. I built in buffers. I adjusted where I needed to, and it was a hyper effective day because I planned it the day before. And when you start marrying your actions with the results, you're going to be more tempted to continue in those actions. So that's what I would suggest there. So guys, on the topic of efficiencies, I've had to pivot and adjust today. So this is going to be a shorter meeting than it normally is. But we had some good questions. I've got a bunch of questions over on Facebook as well. And when Kip is here, when he's recovered from his little man cold, we'll get him back here on the podcast. And I would love to get his take on some questions from Facebook. So guys, a couple of things for resources. Number one, I talked about this quite a bit on today's podcast, the 12-week battle planner. You can get the leather cover that I have here, or you can pick up just the insert. It's a lot less expensive. If you go to store.orderofman.com, you can check it out. And if you want to know how to use this in the most effective way possible, or maybe you have your own tool or want to create your own tool, there's a free program that we have called 30 Days to Battle Ready. It's free. It's a series of emails that you'll get that walks you through the exact planning system that I have developed over 10 years of doing this work that has produced maximum results. And when I'm slacking in my life and I'm not as efficient and I've messed up and made mistakes, I'll tell you it's because I deviated from that system. So if you go to orderofman.com/battle-ready, orderofman.com/battle-ready, you can get signed up for the program and you'll get your first email immediately. And you'll get 17 other emails that are going to walk you through in a course of 30 days how to use this and how to maximize and leverage your efficacy and efficiency in your life. All right, gentlemen, there you go. Great questions today. Thank you to my Iron Council members. Appreciate you guys. We're going to be implementing some new programs and some new features for our Iron Council members that I'm very excited to announce to them. They don't even know yet, but they're going to be cool. So if you want to check that out, you can go to orderman.com/Iron Council. All right, guys, we will be back on Friday. Until then, go out there, take action, be efficient, and become the man you are meant to be.